Hi everybody, it's Honest John again. Now, when Obamacare was first passed, conservatives declared that this was the end of democracy and freedom. Well, it's been with us for about 6 years now and has been reaffirmed twice by the Supreme Court. And guess what? Democracy is still alive and well. There has not been a government takeover of health care. There are no death panels. Healthcare costs, after initially going down, are rising at the lowest rate in 50 years. And millions of Americans have coverage that didn't have it before. And all of this has had no effect on people's basic rights and freedoms. Now the Supreme Court has legalized gay marriage. And once again, as far as conservatives are concerned, it is again the end of democracy and freedom. Now, gay marriage may be legal, but it's not required. Nobody is going to force Mike Huckabee to suck a dick. And any church that doesn't want to perform a gay wedding doesn't have to. But let me tell you something. Performing weddings for gay couples is about to become a growth industry. There are a lot of people that have been waiting for years to be able to do this. So, once they figure out that there's a lot of money to be made from this, I'm willing to bet that you'll find a lot of churches that will want to get in on the action. Somehow conservatives have arrived at the conclusion that giving people rights that they have always taken for granted somehow diminishes their rights. But nobody is forbidding heterosexual couples from getting married. They are free to march down the aisle and take their vows just like they always have been. Somehow these people don't get that allowing all people to have the same rights as everybody else is actually what democracy is all about. But let's talk about something that is anti-democratic, that is an assault on democracy, and that does involve depriving Americans of rights that they are entitled to. And that's voter suppression. And this is something that conservatives are unanimously for. Now, one of the ways that they're doing that is by limiting the days that people can vote. By cutting down the number of voting days before Election Day. Now, I think for one thing, Election Day should be a national holiday. People should not have to go to work on Election Day. Their only job should be to go vote. That might cut down on some of the lines at the polling places if people were able to vote all day. But there are also these voter ID laws. And the people that defend them say, for example, well, you have to have an ID to fly on an airplane. Got news for you. Poor people don't fly on airplanes. They say, well, you have to have an ID to drive. Well, a lot of poor people take the bus. And a lot of old people no longer drive because they're no longer able to, so they don't have a need for a driver's license. And they'll say you need an ID to buy alcohol, and that's true. So in a lot of poor families, one person has an ID and the rest don't. But they're all still American citizens. Now, even though it's been clearly established that in-person voter fraud just doesn't happen, conservatives insist that the way to protect democracy is to take away the rights of millions of legal American citizens. Oddly enough, those citizens are not likely to cast their votes for Republicans. This is why in the red states, for example, a gun license is accepted ID, but a state-issued student ID is not. Now, if the red states want to require ID to vote, I think that's just fine. But in order to do that, the burden should be on them to make sure that none of their citizens are denied their right to vote. So here's what they should be required to do. They should provide every citizen ID, a voting ID. Doesn't have to be a driver's license. You can still charge for a driver's license, but there should be a state-issued ID that's recognized as a voter ID, and it should be free of charge. They should also be required to send workers to poor neighborhoods and to senior citizens' homes to make sure that every citizen that needs an ID to vote will have one. Again, free of charge. And they should set up a process whereby every citizen is provided with an ID when they reach legal voting age. Only after they have accomplished these steps, then they would be able to require ID at the ballot box. And somebody should let conservatives know that democracy is not about denying people their rights. Thanks for listening.